Welcome, everyone. Have a seat. Make yourself feel comfortable. Class is in session. Today's topic is you and relationships. Now, this is not your typical video series about relationships and how to find them and how to get the next best person. This is a video series about the relationships you're already in and how to move through them, how to demystify not only what we think a relationship is, but to redefine it so that we understand how it's helping to shape who we are. What comes to mind when you hear the word relationship? Do you just think about the connections you have with the people you know, like your spouse, your partner, your best friend, your parents, maybe your children? Most of us immediately think of another person. But what if those are only a small fraction of the relationships that shape our life? Whether you realize it or not, you have a relationship with your work, money, your body, time, and let's not forget ourselves. The quality of those relationships influences the quality of your life. So when someone asks, who are you in a relationship with? The better question is, what are you in a relationship with? Because every one of those connections is shaping who you become. Welcome to Now's Return. I'm your host, Coach Liz. Today, we'll be introducing a new series in the collection about relationships. In this series, we'll look into the many types of relationships we have, what those relationships tell about ourselves, and why we're in them. We'll also explore how to better live in them so that we understand there are choices and lessons that enable us to grow and expand. So as you can tell from the introduction, we'll expand past the normal understanding of relationships, including the ability to deconstruct them for our own understanding. So follow along as we take a look at the mirror of our relationships. The word relationship hasn't always meant what we think it means today. Historically, relationships were understood primarily through structures like family, marriage, kinship, tribe, communities, political alliances, and business partnerships. These relationships weren't always centered around emotion or personal fulfillment. Often, they existed for our survival. Historically, families worked together because survival depended upon it. It was a way to secure food, shelter, and safety. And when families expanded through marriage, it was a way to strengthen the alliance between families, a way to secure property, continue the bloodline, or create economic stability. And as these groups expanded, it created communities. And these communities depended upon the cooperation of these different groups because no individual could survive entirely on their own. Back then, relationships were understood as connections that held society together. Duty often came before personal happiness, and responsibility frequently outweighed the individual preference. Now, this doesn't mean love didn't exist. It certainly did. But historically, love wasn't always considered the foundation of a relationship. Connection was the relationship. And believe it or not, many of today's societies still see relationships this way. As societies became more stable, many people gained greater freedom to choose and started to choose the relationship they wanted. Relationships became centered around compatibility, communication, emotional support, shared values, and personal fulfillment. Today, we often define relationships by the way they make us feel. Do they make me happy? Do they understand me? Do they support me? Do they have anything in common with me? In this context, we begin to make connections based on common interests and how we feel. Now, let's look at a relationship from a different perspective and broaden our understanding of it. And with that, we have to ask, what is a relationship? And what if the relationships aren't limited to people? What if a relationship is simply an ongoing interaction between ourselves and another person, place, object, system, idea, or aspect of life that creates influences in both directions? If we use this broadened understanding, then everything changes. You begin to notice that you have a relationship with your phone, a relationship with money, a relationship with your body, a relationship with time. And even with these things, you have to question if they are benefiting you or harming you. For example, does your phone keep you connected or distracted? Does money give you freedom, security, status, or something to fear? Do you appreciate your body, ignore it, fight against it, or care and honor it? And for time, do you believe that there's never enough? Or do you move through your day with intention? Every repeated interaction you have with people and things and situations strengthens these patterns. And every pattern becomes a relationship. Even though conventional wisdom tells us otherwise, many of us still think relationships are static and don't change. We think that you meet someone, you become friends, you marry. You work together, and those connections are supposed to last forever to the point we make long lasting declarations and promises. But relationships aren't fixed, they're living systems. They're constantly changing because as people, we are constantly changing. Every conversation changes a relationship. Every choice we make changes a relationship. Every action, as well as every inaction, changes a relationship. There are times where our relationships deepen, and there are also times when they drift apart. Sometimes our relationships transform and evolve into something entirely different, and sometimes they end. When we start to realize that relationships are living systems, we can start to pay attention while they're changing. And this is not a call to force someone else to do something because we've noticed the change. It's the awareness to know that you have a choice in how you move through it. Because if we're honest with ourselves, evolution and change are constant. And because we are a part of that cycle, change is constant within us. So let's take a look at how we shift our perspective on relationships. Because relationships don't exist simply to make us comfortable, they exist to make us conscious and aware. Think about it. Without a relationship, many of our deepest qualities would remain invisible to us. Patience becomes visible because someone tests it. And you know how it feels when someone tests your patience. And you get that experience on what that feels like and then what you do with that information. Forgiveness becomes meaningful because someone hurt us. Boundaries become necessary because people have crossed them. And it's up to us to know when to set those boundaries. Compassion becomes real because someone is suffering. And again, it's about what do we do with that information? And courage becomes visible because fear is present. So when we really look at the relationships we're in, they don't merely reveal the other person to us. The relationship reveals us. They show us what we believe, what we fear, and what we value. They also show us where we're growing and where we are resisting. It also shows where we still have opportunities to become a more whole in our expression of ourselves. So before you go, I'd like to leave you with a simple thought. Take a moment and ask yourself, what relationships am I actually living in every day? Not just the ones with people, but with your thoughts, your body, your work, your money, time, nature, technology, in your emotions, and most importantly, with yourself. Because every one of those relationships is quietly shaping your life. So the next time someone asks you if you're in a relationship, the answer is yes. You are always in a relationship. But the real question to yourself is, what kind of relationship am I creating? And who is helping me to become? In our next conversation, we'll explore a powerful idea that changes how we see every connection we have. We'll get into exploring the title of this series, which is The Mirror of Our Relationship. And this is not a mirror that's meant to judge you, but one that reflects where you are, what you value, and who you're becoming. Because when you stop asking during our challenging times, why is this happening to me? And can choose to shift and ask, what is this relationship showing me? We can get to that point where we begin to take the first steps toward understanding that every relationship, whether with ourselves, another person, or life itself, can become a pathway to greater awareness, growth, and our wholeness. For those looking for a cup of inspiration, check out Retro Canvas Services Motivational Mug Collection.